Welcome to the Front Four Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Marchese. Alongside me, as always, my buddy, my pal, Jeff Azaparty. You can follow us on Twitter at MattyMar89, at J_party, and at Front4 Fantasy. And Jeff, before we kind of really dive into our topics for today, just overarching thoughts about the first weekend of the playoffs, because I mean, a lot of people were complaining about the 7th seed not putting up much of a fight, but can anybody really complain when we get more football out of it? Like, really?
No, not at all. Who's going to complain about that? I don't think any of those complaints are validated. Like, if the Chargers had gotten in, would that have been more of a better game or a shootout? Like, you know, if that game had ended in a tie last Sunday and it was the Chargers instead of the Steelers, like the Steelers had no right being in the playoff. Like, come on. Like, I mean, I would have cheered for the Chargers. I think that would have been another game, and you're going to still get some blowouts. I mean, like, what do you want? The Bills blew out the Patriots. They weren't the 7th seed. Like, there's going to be blowouts. Unfortunately, it was those 7 seeds, and I guess people don't like it. But I mean, shoot, it made that Sunday night or the week before incredibly enticing and entertaining.
Sure.
Like, you know, giving it. So no, I like the more teams in the playoffs. The one team getting the bye, even to me, is more with the 7th playoff seed. Like, I like that only one team gets to fight for a bye instead of 2. And to me, it just makes it more competitive and let these guys battle it out.
And not for anything, but let's say the Chargers got in and they were the 7th seed and they got absolutely waxed.
Yeah.
Would people still would have complained?
Yeah, they would have, without a doubt. So I'm just saying the fact that it was both, and like I would, once the Steelers made it in, I was not excited about that game anyways, because I felt like it was going to be a blowout no matter what.
And as a Bills fan, I was trying to cheer for the Steelers because then the Bills don't have to play the Chiefs. And like,
because the Steelers did not look good all year. Like, how they got in there, I don't know. Anyway, but they did, which good for them. And sorry if you're a Steelers fan. Like, I'm glad your team made it, but man,
yeah, have fun with Mason Rudolph as your quarterback next year.
Oh, jeez,
which we actually can get to in the 2-minute drill, because that'll be interesting. All right. So over the next 2 shows, the plan is to look at our top 5 for each position for next year. This is just redraft. This is not dynasty. It's just redraft and kind of looking ahead and seeing kind of where the chips may fall here.
And this is just right now looking at the guys. Like, obviously there's going to be some variables, right? Like,
of course.
Like, we're not going to, it's funny. At first, Matty, I read our messages wrong, and I had done running backs and receivers. But when I was looking at receivers, like Devontae Adams, is Aaron Rodgers going to be back? But anyways, this is just right now, looking forward ahead to right now, how we would rank guys moving forward, right?
Yeah. So we're going to do QBs and running backs today. And as you know, Jeff read the text message wrong. So, but we'll make do.
I don't pay attention to a lot of what you said.
You and my wife, it's the same thing. So we're going to do QBs running backs this week. And then the next show we'll do wide receivers and tight ends. So let's start with the quarterback. So mine, I didn't rank them like, here's number 1, here's number 2. I just went, here's the top 5. So I kind of went chalk. And this is assuming that everybody's healthy, but I do have a caveat in mind. So Josh Allen, obviously in there. I have Mahomes. I have Justin Herbert. I have Lamar Jackson in there as well, just because, the rushing numbers, if he's playing a full season, are just too much to pass up. And I have Aaron Rodgers. Now, this is where it gets a little spicy, Jeff. And I know you like a little bit of spice in the chili.
I like a lot. Yeah, go for it.
This is going to be a very, very bold take. If Aaron Rodgers decides that he's not playing next year, he's obviously out of my top 5 enters into the top 5. Justin Fields.
That is interesting.
For the same reason as Lamar Jackson. I think that his rushing ability gives him a leg up. And the thing is I know.
So list your 5 again. Hold on. Run it down without Rodgers. If Rodgers steps away.
Okay, if Rodgers retires, it's Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, Jackson, and Fields. And the only reason why I have Fields in there over a guy like Burrow or whatever, and even Trey Lance, because somebody's going to say, well, Trey Lance can run too. The difference is that I believe that Justin Fields is more polished as a passer than Trey Lance is at this point in their careers. Remember, I also had Justin Fields as the number 1 quarterback coming out of this draft class. So, I mean, I'm all in here.
Yeah.
And we'll get to, because we want to talk about players and coaching changes and how that's affected. We will talk about that. So
he's the top guy I wrote down. Yeah, that's funny.
We'll get more into that, but that's my top 5. So again, to recap, if Aaron Rodgers does not retire, I have Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, Jackson, and A-Rod. And if Rodgers decides to retire, Justin Fields slides right into that spot.
Okay, so let me ask you this. I don't think anywhere or anyone would give you any argument that Mahomes and Allen have to be at the top, one way or the other, right? Like it's
Mahomes had a bad year and he still finished in the top 5.
It's ridiculous. Like him and Allen too. Like, you know, there were some weeks where he didn't look phenomenal, but he was always up there. Like he had a great year. So I think there's no argument that those 2 guys are at the top of the list. Yeah. And then it's always after there that gets interesting. So, and like you said, Rodgers, not being sure about him, but like he could be on his way to winning another MVP. How do you not put him in the top 5 if he does that and if he comes back? But Brady
was the other one that I was kind of like, I'm not sure. Like at some point, the wheels have got to fall off here. I don't know when, but at some point they do.
It's true, and they might change up their offense again depending what's going on there and who they bring back and his receivers and everything else. So let me ask you this, Matty, because here's a guy I put in my top 5 that you don't have in yours, and
I know who it is.
You know, you got to know who it is, right? It's going to be Kyler Murray. Like you see Lamar and Fields over him. Like I know you said Fields more polished out of all the rookies and everything, so you would still take Fields over Murray, even like.
It's a bold take, and here's what I will say. And this is like, maybe there's some recency bias in this because we just watched Kyler Murray look absolutely dreadful against the Rams. I've looked at that offense and I've always wanted more from them. And I found
without a doubt. No, without a doubt. I'm a Cardinals fan, and here's my problem. I think they need a new coach. I think Cliff Kingsbury is a little bit not simple-minded, but he runs the same plays. Like he doesn't adapt well. He hasn't played like for 3 years. And that's why at the beginning of the year, the team always seems to take off and have a great start to the season. Like they always, first 6-10 games, they're ahead of the pack. Like it's happened for the last 3 years, but then the league catches up to him and he's not able to adapt. And the other thing I'll give Kyler as a strike is the last 2 years, he's hobbled off the field and he's been hurt late in the season.
And they've taken away his rushing a bit. Like he doesn't run the ball he runs out of necessity rather than out of game planning, basically.
Yeah, sure.
If I'm being honest, I thought the guy you were going to include in that top 5 that I didn't was Joe Burrow.
Well, I have him too. Well, that's what I was going to say. If Rodgers is out, I think my top would be Mahomes, Allen, Murray, Justin Herbert, and then Joe Burrow as my number 5, because I really believe in that Cincinnati offense. Like, I mean, I think they're going to be an offense you want to target next year. Like, come on, man. Like, with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins as your 1-2 guy, Tyler Boyd once in a while.
He was great the last 5 or 6 weeks.
Exactly. No. When they open it up and when it's there for him, he takes advantage. And then with Joe Mixon in the backfield, like, I think that's an offense you're going to want to target. So I did have Burrow up in my top 5 as well.
Okay, so there's one guy that has been excluded from both of our lists. And it's not Tom Brady because we don't know where Tom Brady is in the equation. But there's one guy that is attached to an offense that has really good players that both of us do not have in our top 5. And I believe that it's a guy who's going to provide some value next year because a lot of people are going to pass on him.
I'm curious about this because I have another guy too I'm really curious about next year, but we don't know for sure.
Dak Prescott.
Yeah, he is interesting to me, and I see him. Yeah,
he started out like gangbusters again, and the offense just completely tailed off. And
then the odd week they'd show up.
Yeah, and it turned into an offense where you go, I don't know, pick a week. I'm not sure, but if you look at CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper and Cedric Wilson looked really good when Michael Gallup went out. Dalton Schultz had a career year.
Yeah.
Ezekiel Elliott looks looks awful right now.
He does look awful.
Tony Pollard is really good. So the pieces are there for Dallas to have a good offense.
But they never really turned that over to Pollard either, which was always confusing because I know we talked about it a few times.
What did he have in the San Fran playoff game? 6 touches?
Yeah.
That guy had 6 touches. You kidding me?
Exactly. When you couldn't open anything up, like, come on. It's crazy to me. Well, the other guy I'm thinking of was actually on the San Francisco, like Trey Lance. If he gets a starting opportunity, I know it was the Texans, but he looked pretty good and he's got the rushing ability. He'll get more comfortable passing, maybe another year. And with weapons like Debo and Ayuk, like
Kittle and Elijah Mitchell.
Yes, exactly. Like Trey Lance is also going to be a guy, if he comes in a little bit more mature, if they get rid of Garoppolo, like, I don't know, man. He could be a real factor too, for the same reasons you mentioned about Fields.
So kind of a bold take. I know I went the complete opposite direction here. At the beginning of the season, because I said Trey Lance was going to start by week 6.
Well, I thought same thing.
At
least by the end of the year. Never mind week 6, by the end of the year.
I do wonder, Jeff, if they bring back Jimmy Garoppolo for another year.
No, he didn't lose the starting job, that's for sure. Look, he just won a
playoff
game. So
I don't get it.
Somehow or somewhere. Although if his I don't know. It's very interesting to me what they do there. And again, like we said, like we're not sure what's going to happen next year, but we will definitely see.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to running backs now. This is always an exercise in futility and trying to predict the top 5, because all these guys do is get hurt.
Right. Sure.
Try and even pick the top 10 and see how many that you get right. Yeah. My guess is you're probably at a 50% clip, because you think it's going to be McCaffrey and Barkley and Cook. And
well, how do you take one of those guys out, right? Knowing what they could be. Like McCaffrey, last 2 years, he's been hurt. But when he's in, he's everything. Like, so how do you take him out of the top 5 or even out of the top spot? Like, I bet you a lot of places will still rank him number 1 next year, and a lot of people will choose him number 1 next year.
Jeff, because I don't trust him one bit, he's not in my top 5.
Yeah,
I just don't. He's played 10 games the last 2 years?
No, without a doubt. He's dropped down in mine, but I feel like you kind of got to keep him there. Like,
so you still have him in your 5?
Yeah.
Okay, go with your 5 then.
No, go with yours, because I have some interest. I'm not sure, honestly, because I have 4 here, and there's one, like, I'm on the, I don't know, I have like 6 listed right now.
Okay, so go with what you got.
Okay.
I'm not going to change your mind. Don't worry.
Dude, seriously, like you said, write your top 10. I wrote 9 down, and I'm still like on the fence about a couple of them.
Okay.
So to me, so again, let's do this again. Like the quarterbacks, to me, there's 2 guys at the top. There's Derrick Henry. I know he got hurt this year, but I got to have full faith in him. And there's
guy still finished like top 12.
Yeah, without a doubt. So yeah, I'm taking that chance with him. And usually he gets stronger at the end of the year. Had he not gone hurt, who knows what those numbers would have been. So Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor, to me, are the guys right at the top. They're 1, 2.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they have to be there. So those are the 2 guys I think you're looking at for sure. To me, and I used to love this guy, Alvin Kamara, has dropped out. Right?
Oh, you took him out.
I took him out of my top 5. See, like, he would be down there a bit. Dalvin Cook, depending what Minnesota does, I think he'd still be in my top 5. Austin Eckler, again, if he can stay healthy, I think he's in my top 5. And then again, there's Christian McCaffrey. Joe Mixon was a guy who was very curious to put in there. Like, he was right on the cusp. And so is Najee Harris. Like, I can't believe I don't have him in my top 5. Like, given the way they used him this year, and without Ben, and like you said, depending who the heck steps in there as quarterback, they're probably going to do a lot of the same stuff. So Najee, I think I want to put him in my top 5, and I guess I would take out Cook, but I'm not sure. And then all of a sudden I'm looking through the list, and then I realized I totally forgot about DeAndre Swift. Like,
how dare you?
I know, but I think he would be top 10 for me, but not top 5, because now that they've established that they have some other weapons like St. Brown and Hawkinson, are like, and given the injury trouble he had this year, maybe they'll ease off him a bit. So I left him out of my top 5 as well.
Okay, that's a good list. I'm surprised that you kept Kamara out of there, because I know how much you like him, and I understand.
But again, I don't with Taysom. If they move forward with Taysom Hill and not knowing what that, like, I don't think we got a sense of what that offense was this year. Like, we don't know, and they kept jumping around with quarterbacks. Like, I just don't know. Like I said, he's right on the cusp. Again, I think he would be 6 or 7 for me, but I would not put him in my top 5 right now.
So I do have him in my top 5.
Okay, fair. No, it's fair. Dude, he does it all. And when they use him, he gets the points and he gets the yards.
And I think,
which always makes me mad, which is why I don't want to count on him, because I'm heartbroken when they don't use him like I think they should use him.
Oh, no, I agree with you. I 100% agree with you there. So the reason why I have him in my top 5 is I do think that there's a quarterback change. There has to be. Sean Payton is not going to go another year with this nonsense. I don't know. Maybe they draft somebody. Maybe they don't. Maybe they trade for somebody. I don't know what their cap situation is. They make money disappear in New Orleans off their cap. Like the cap is the biggest farce in sports in the NFL because it's like, just change it. Okay, you're a fan of The Office, right? Okay, do you remember the last episode when they have a new accountant in there and she looks at the paperwork and she says to Oscar, "What is this symbol?" And Oscar says, "That's a Clevin." Kevin would say, "Clevin, numbers minus Clevin equals home by 7." That is how the Saints operate their cap. They use a Clevin and all of their stuff is gone. So that's why I think that they're going to make it work. So my top 5 is, as we said, Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry are locks. Austin Eckler, I think, is in that top 5 as well for 2 reasons. One, the way they use him in the passing game. I think he had like 647 receiving yards and he missed 1 or 2 games. I think it was 1.
Well, and that running back is established, right? Like, look at some of the weeks he missed. Like the guys who stepped in for him, they had some big weeks too. From
Justin Jackson was huge that one
right?
week. Yeah.
So like they're gonna use running backs no matter who it is like that. And Eckler seems to be the man there. Well, rightfully so. So if he's there, I agree. He should be in the top 5. And that's what I mean.
And the way they used him around the goal line, like he got the goal line carries. Nobody thought he was going to. He got them. He is established as the bell cow back there. And that's an offense that you want to attach yourself to. I have Kamara in my top 5, which I mentioned. The other guy that I have, I can't quit this guy. It's DeAndre Swift.
Yeah.
I can't because I see so much of Kamara in him. Yes. And I think that the Lions are.
And he's a bigger back. Like he's bigger, stronger guy.
Yeah. And I think that so the way I look at that Lions offense is like, I know you talked about the emergence of Amon-Ra St. Brown, TJ Hawkinson will be back next year. I actually think that helps DeAndre Swift because now teams are going, okay, hold on a second.
Yeah,
like we got to back off a little bit here because they have some pieces and they're going to add pieces. I fully anticipate that they're going to draft a quarterback. I fully anticipate that they're going to draft another wide receiver probably within the first 2 rounds. My guess is it's probably in the second round. So now you're adding pieces and you go, okay, hold on a second. Like maybe we have, a top 5 wide receiver from this class, plus Amon-Ra St. Brown, plus TJ Hawkinson, plus DeAndre Swift.
You're right. That would open the game up more. Yep.
Yeah. And now look at the offense and go, okay, this isn't bad. So that's why I have Swift in there. I think his PPR value, like we saw how many passes he caught this year. He was incredible. He spent time. He ended up getting COVID, went on the COVID list. Then he had the shoulder injury. So it wasn't great for him. He played 13 games, so he missed 4.
Right.
He missed 4 games. So, I mean, if he's healthy, I think you lock him in as one of the top 5 just because the Lions still won't be a lot better. And because
even if it's a rookie quarterback or Jared Goff, you're not throwing the ball that far.
Dump offs
a ton. I think they did get a little bit used to like splitting with Jamal Williams, and he might get some more. Just again, always coming off injuries. I worry about them like just easing up a little bit in the next year. But who knows? I guess the one I wanted to ask you about was Najee Harris. Would you put him anywhere close to the top 5?
So the only reason why I would have him there, because he's probably like in and around 8 for me. And that's because A, there's nobody there to take carries away. And B, when they have a guy that they like, he gets 20 touches a week.
Yep.
And I don't know, maybe that's going to change. Maybe that philosophy is going to change. I don't know. But they're going to have to do something. And like we said, I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback. Like, can it be worse than Ben Roethlisberger? Probably not. So I think based on workload alone, he's locked into a top 10 spot just because he's going to get the workload.
Exactly.
After that,
without a doubt,
I don't know how successful he's going to be.
Yeah.
Like that's, there's
sure.
definitely top 5 upside there.
He was a guy it was really curious to me where he fits in. And again, the other guy for me was Joe Mixon because I bank on that Bengals offense a lot next year.
Yeah, and
if he's back, if he's there.
Dalvin Cook was not in either of our top 5s. I think that Alexander Mattison is going to get some work next year. Yeah. He's proven when he gets work, he's good. So I think Madison's going to get some work. So I think that might take away from him.
I said I thought about it, but he's right on the cusp for me. I had him in, and I had him in, and then I would drop him for Harris. But
yeah, no, we don't have Saquon Barkley. I don't have
no
McCaffrey.
chance.
Like
No
David Montgomery.
Yeah.
David Montgomery is really good. I don't have him in that conversation. Like Aaron Jones, not in that like
it's true. They were all up there this year, right? Like that is pretty crazy. Those
Ezekiel
are some names again. I forgot.
Ezekiel Elliott finished 6th. We have him nowhere near probably our top 12 next year. Top
it's 15. True. Without a doubt. Yeah. Maybe top 15. Yeah. He'd probably be hovering around the 15 mark.
Here's what we know. There's a lot of talent at the position. And you can find value everywhere. You just got to look for it.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move on to topic number 3. And that's players that can be improved by coaching changes. So we kind of alluded to this. For me, it's Justin Fields as the number 1 guy. You could make the argument that you could make the argument that Trevor Lawrence is in that conversation as well. But I just look at Justin Fields, and yes, it's more than just coaching. The offensive line needs to be better. They need to add another weapon or 2 for him to go along with Darnell Mooney and David Montgomery and Cole Kmet. But the biggest thing for me is they need to build a system around his rushing ability, because Matt Nagy did not do that. It was basically the same game plan for Andy Dalton as it was for Justin Fields. And I'm sorry, that just doesn't work. You're not using his skill set. So the guy that, even though it would pain me to see him leave Buffalo, if Brian Daboll was the head coach in Chicago, I think that would do wonders for Justin Fields. And even Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator in Baltimore, who has Lamar Jackson, if he got an opportunity, I would be excited for that as well. I don't think he's one of the guys that they're looking at, but they need to bring in an offensive-minded guy or bring in a really good offensive coordinator to work with Justin Fields.
No, I totally agree with you. Like I said, he's right there on top. And I mean, I'll even throw Darnell Mooney in that mix. Like they get a good guy, an offensive-minded guy in there. Like you said, Justin Fields no doubt has the tools. So if they run it, if they run a proper offense there, he should be. It should really up his value next year.
Yeah.
So the guy I thought about was Travis Etienne in Jacksonville, and depending who they got, like I keep hearing things like Byron Leftwich from the Bucks is like a no-brainer to go to Jacksonville, given his history there, right? You get an offensive coach, offensive-minded coach like that, like, the way they use Leonard Fournette or the way they use some of their backs, like, and with James Robinson, with that injury he suffered at the end of the year, like he's out. Like we were talking, maybe they start splitting after James, but like James Robinson has a long road back, and which only leaves Travis Etienne as the main back there. Yeah. So, I mean, you got a bunch of young weapons. You get a coach in there that's offensive minded and can run an offense, like say the Bucks. Man, as long as they improve, obviously they have to improve the offensive line as well. You would hope they would, seeing as it was such a big hole for them this year.
It was a tire fire.
Yeah, but if they do, like a guy like Byron Leftwich could really change around that offense. I think the weapons are there. I mean, obviously Trevor Lawrence has to take a step up, but Etienne to me is a guy who, man, he could be so money next year.
Yeah. So I went with a group instead of one player for my second one, because
my second one too. We didn't even talk about this.
No,
I have a group as my second one too.
Who's your?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I went with the New York Giants.
Oh wow.
And see,
I have them listed literally as the worst. Like they have that. Talk about a tire fire. Like they do have weapons, but it's a mess there. Like to me, out of all the jobs that are open, like maybe even the Texans, because at least they've kind of started the read, but like the Giants might be the worst like situation you want to get yourself into.
Well, and that's so there's a caveat with this one too. They obviously need to get a quarterback. Right. Now, would I be stunned if Russell Wilson ended up?
No, he's the guy I keep hearing too.
I would not be shocked at all. So, yes, they need a quarterback, but they need a coach, again, an offensive-minded coach that could go in there and work with the guys in the skill sets that they have. Right. Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney, Sterling Shepard, Saquon Barkley. You can even throw Darius Slayton in the mix.
No, it's a good group. There, man. It is a good group.
And they need to. What I saw a lot with the Giants was
once in a while their defense showed up too. Like they could be a decent team, like, or at least in the mix, especially in that division where it's always up and down.
Exactly. And I look at this, like, I just didn't see them use the skill sets properly. Like Kenny Golladay was not good. It was a guy that I was fading all year, and I said as much early in the season, like before the season started. But I also didn't see him used properly. Like, you're paying the guy all that money. You should be peppering him with 8, 9, 10 targets a game. He's a big bodied guy, and they didn't use him properly. Now, it does help if you have a better quarterback, but I do anticipate that they're going to get a better quarterback. I just don't see Daniel Jones back there next year. I just don't see it. That it never worked there. And maybe Daniel Jones goes somewhere else.
If anything, no, but I think he is. Like, I think one thing we learned this year is there's a lot of bad QBs in the NFL, like especially backups. Like, I could see Daniel Jones being a backup quarterback. He's not a number one to me. Yeah. Like because there is the odd week where he steps in there when he's prepared enough and he has a good week. So to me, he's the perfect like backup because he knows when he has to come in. He's not playing every week because he can't do it consistently. But if he knows the system and he's there, like to me, Daniel Jones would be an awesome number 2 quarterback. I would not want him as my number 1 anywhere.
Okay, so here's a question for you because we're talking about backup quarterbacks, and this guy actually had some success. Would you rather have as your starting quarterback Daniel Jones, and they're very similar in the styles that they play, Daniel Jones or Mitchell Trubisky?
Probably Trubisky. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think, for sure. And
you know what? I bet you a year like being a number 2 QB is like kind of smartened him up a bit. Like, I would like to see him if he got another chance now and what he would do with it.
So here's a thought that I've seen in multiple spots. Brian Daboll, the Bills offensive coordinator, Joe Schoen, the Bills assistant general manager, and Mitch Trubisky end up with the Giants.
Oh, wow. That is
Trubisky's worked with Brian Daboll.
Both of them.
He knows his strength. He
sure.
has a skill set.
Yes,
and he's won games in the NFL, and he's made guys like, hey, Allen Robinson had good years with Mitch Trubisky as his quarterback. Maybe Mitch Trubisky needed a year.
Yeah,
I'm talking about Mitch Trubisky about next year. Oh my God. But that shows you the state of the New York Giants right now.
No, it's without a doubt.
But that's to your point. There are a lot of bad quarterbacks that started football games this year.
Yeah.
Like Mike Glennon is awful, and he started games. I don't know. I don't get it.
No, for sure. How many backup quarterbacks were there that stepped in and just looked like they couldn't hang in the NFL? Like, there's no way they looked. Or like they're deciding between 2 and 3 in their depth chart with the quarterbacks, and they don't want to start either, right?
Yeah.
Like, look when Kirk Cousins went down, what the Vikings had to deal with.
Oh, that was awful.
They just drafted a quarterback and didn't want to put him in. Like, it's crazy to me. And the other thing with the Giants is like they were never fully healthy this year. Like, I don't know. People said Joe Judge worked them too hard and might be a big problem there too. But at no point were they ever really healthy, which is crazy to me.
It was a mess. It was an absolute mess. So you have a second one?
Well, the only other ones I wanted to flag were the wide receivers in Denver, like the Broncos receiving corps. They got some guys with some talent there. They need a quarterback deadly, but a coach who comes in and who has a quarterback in mind that can play. Like, I think at one point, like there could be 3 different quarterbacks or wide receivers there that we were in on at one point in the season because we thought they have the talent. Well, we know they have the talent. If somebody there is running the ball, they have good running backs too. Like, that could open up the game. They have a good coach there who has a quarterback in mind and runs a good system. Like, I think that receiving core can really take a step up and all have a good year.
Yeah, I do wonder what their plan is at quarterback because Teddy Bridgewater ain't it. Drew Lock ain't it.
No,
I wonder if they kick tires on Russell Wilson. I do wonder if that's a thing.
Or Aaron Rodgers said he was going to go there. So
you know what? I think Aaron Rodgers either plays in Green Bay next year or he retires. I don't think he's going anywhere. What is like, it doesn't make sense to go to a new system. You have to relearn a whole new system.
If you really think you're going to win. Like, Denver has a good defense too. Having him there, and maybe it's just, we know he's all about ego. Like, it could be, I can do what Tom did and I could do it better. Like, stepping into a whole different place. And especially if they don't have a coach and he gets, I don't know, if somebody he has a good relationship with, who knows? I don't know. Anyways, just putting it out there. They had a few weapons there. You like the receivers. They were pretty good. Like, I don't know.
I do wonder what direction they go at quarterback. I mean, maybe it's a 1-year stopgap where they draft the guy, but I don't know. Is that maybe Jared Goff ends up in Denver?
Who knows?
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe Mitch Trubisky ends up in. We're going to talk a lot about Mitch Trubisky this offseason. I'm pretty sure. I'm biased because he's a Buffalo Bill. You have any more? No. Okay. So we can move
the Texans on. To me have no one who cares about them. Dolphins and Vikings to me, they kind of are what they are. Like Justin Jefferson maybe is a guy, but Yeah, no, I think we know how good Justin Jefferson is. So
Yeah, I don't
know
think
how
he,
much.
I don't think it matters.
Yeah, to
for
him. Yeah.
Okay, so topic number 4 today, and this will be our last one before the 2-minute drill, which will probably be actually shorter than 2 minutes, for once. Who has built up their stock over the last few weeks for next year? And we kind of circled 3 guys that we like. I'm pretty sure we're on the same pages here. The first guy that I listed, he only has played the 1 game, and I'm absolutely stunned at how good he's looked, and that was Cam Akers. I thought he looked absolutely dynamite.
Well, how high do we have him on our list? Like, we know how good he is, and he's back, and he's showing it, and he's come back quick. Like, that's not an easy injury to come back from.
And that's
look that good, that quick. Wow. Like, yeah, without a doubt.
And that's the part that I think that Cam Akers was obviously getting drafted, I wouldn't say fairly high, but high enough that he was probably a 3rd or 4th round pick next year.
Third.
Now I think he's locked into the 2nd round.
I wouldn't have an issue with that, of
course. Cam Akers offense, he may be a high-end 2nd round pick based on just watching him once.
And he could be the difference maker in that offense, like just transforming it and opening it up a little bit more, even for the receivers and stuff. Like, man, yeah, when he's inserted into that offense full time, it's going to be very interesting.
And you know what, Jeff? I think we saw it in that game against Arizona. Yeah. I do think that this team wants to go run heavy, because I know this is going to sound really hot takey, but I think they worry a lot about Matthew Stafford throwing.
Without a doubt, his yards, yeah, for sure. The more he throws the ball, the more he's bound to throw interceptions. We saw that at the end of the year. He gets in his own head, I think. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, and so Cam Akers, I think, locked into a 2nd round pick now. I don't think that there's any argument here. Another guy that has really shown up over the last 5 or 6 weeks, and it continued into their playoff game against New England, was Devin Singletary. Now,
you picked him last time we did a show. You had him as your playoff, or your
he was one of my playoff MVPs.
MVPs, yeah.
Yeah. And now in the real playoffs, he scored 2 touchdowns, and I believe he had close to 100. No, he had over 100 total yards. And it's, again, part of an offense that you want to attach yourself to. This Buffalo offense has wanted Devin Singletary or Zach Moss, somebody to take.
Well, that's the thing, right? That's the biggest thing for me with Devin Singletary moving forward. It's clear the Bills trust him now. They had him before. Like, they drafted another running back. They never gave him a full workload. Now they're giving it to him. Like, they just seem, I don't know what came, like, where the light came from, but all of a sudden it's very obvious they're trusting him, and they're giving him the ball, and they're letting him do his thing.
Yeah. So here's the big thing with Devin Singletary. As much as he has improved his stock, I still do not see him going before RB number 20. It just, when you break it down, like, people are
especially in that offense, right? Like, people will take other people in that offense,
and they won't trust Devin Singletary next year. They'll say, well, it's just a mirage. But guys like Chase, probably Chase Edmonds, because James Conner, I don't know if he's going to be back, but one of those 2 Arizona backs is going to get taken ahead of Singletary. Then you look at AJ Dillon, probably going to get taken ahead of Singletary. So you've got those back end type running backs. Plus, you also have any of the rookies coming in. So let's say 3 rookies are going to get taken ahead of him. We already have a list of like 15 guys that we know are getting taken ahead of him. And then a guy like Travis Etienne coming back from his injury. So I guess what I'm saying is that he has improved his stock, that he's probably going to be taken within the first 25 running backs. But I believe that
still might be a steal.
Yeah, I think he's going to provide a ton of value as long as he stays healthy and as long as the Bills continue to trust him. I think that's just
for sure
factual. Like, if he plays a full season as the Bills' number one running back, can you see
clear number 1? Yeah, without a doubt.
I think he's locked into double-digit touchdowns if he's the number 1 guy in Buffalo. Like, locked into at least 10, and probably
even
12.
this week they gave him 2, right? Like.
He's got like 6 or 7 touchdowns the last 6 or 7 weeks.
Yeah. No, I was going to say even more. Maybe even 4 weeks. I think he has like 6. Like, yeah.
I mean, if he continues to go in this same direction as he's going right now, maybe he does creep into like the top 18 running backs. But I just think people won't trust him, and that's fine, because you're going to be able to grab value later on, and it works for you. The third guy that both of us had kind of circled here is Byron Pringle. Now, I will preface this by saying I don't trust the Chiefs to have a tertiary guy outside of Travis Kelce or Tyreek Hill in the passing game. I just don't, because we've seen it before. Sammy Watkins, Mecole Hardman. They brought in Josh Gordon and everybody went nuts, even though that was never going to be a thing. I was a victim of thinking that it was going to be a thing because I'm an idiot. But Byron Pringle, when called upon, has been good. So he's got 26 targets in the last 4 games. He's got 4 touchdowns, 2 multi-TD
3 out of the last
games.
4 games, right? Like 7 or 8 targets in 3 out of those 4 last games.
Yeah,
like,
and you know what the key
crazy
is?
Like, he makes catches and he does something with it. Like, he takes advantage of those opportunities. Because even the 1 week where he didn't have 7 or 8 targets, he had 4, he caught 3 of them, and he like still put up some yards. Like, he's I don't know. I think Mahomes is starting to really trust him. And with guys keying more and more on Tyreek Hill and Kelce, like, I don't know. Maybe Mahomes realizes it just opens it up. Like, he's not going to be going to his running back. Like, I don't think he'd rather look for a guy like Pringle and try. And you know what? The other biggest thing in 2 out of those 4 games, he has 2 touchdowns, which also means that Mahomes is looking for him in the red zone. Like, yeah, you know, when they get down there, he is a guy, because again, guys might key on Tyreek Hill. Like, when you're in the red zone, like, Tyreek just can't take off, right? Like, it's a limited space. So a guy like Pringle, he runs a good route, Mahomes will find him. And I always think Mahomes wants to throw the ball whenever he can. Like, man, like it's those touchdowns to me that can make the difference. And we know they've, like you said, they've been looking for this guy. I mean, 4 or 5 weeks to me just doesn't lie. Like, Pringle could be, he'll at least improve his stock next year, where you think he's the second guy with the way the season's ending.
So the key is that he's improved his draft stock. Yeah. If they don't add somebody in free agency, or they draft somebody, which I still think is a very good possibility, he's getting drafted.
Yeah.
So he goes from undrafted to being drafted, and he's a guy that you take at the back end of your drafts. And
again,
who knows?
It's an offense you want to target, right? Like, who never wants to target the Chiefs offense? So you target that offense, and he's, like you said, after Kelce, after Hill, after even probably Clyde Edwards-Helaire, like, you got to go Pringle. Like, you know, with one of your last draft picks, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you take a flyer and a chance on that?
It's a good dart throw. There's one guy that we kind of spoke about off the air, and that was OBJ.
Yeah.
Since going to the Rams, and I know he goes to a better situation with the quarterback, but he's been very good.
It revitalized them. You could tell he's having fun again, and he's playing football like he can.
So everybody's going to fall back into it. He's absolutely improved his draft stock, and teams are going to be interested in the talent.
For sure.
And if he goes to as long as he doesn't go back to Cleveland, I think you're probably, and he's not.
Which I would say is a pretty safe bet. He's not going back. Unless Mahomes, or unless Mayfield isn't there.
Yeah, he's not going back. But what we can say is that I think he's going to be selective on where he goes. I think he's going to look at a situation and go, that guy's a good quarterback. That's where I'm going to go. And I think that will be the biggest key. It'll be interesting to see where he lands, but I don't think he's a fool. I think he's going to end up in a situation where he maybe doesn't have to be the top dog, but he can be a secondary guy, and he's going to put up numbers because the talent hasn't gone away.
We've seen it. If guys are willing to accept that role, and sometimes that is a premier role, if the number 1 guy is getting doubled or whatever, like you can put up some pretty good numbers as the number 2 guy. And you're right. He definitely is on a trajectory to be that guy.
It should be interesting. Okay, let's get to the 2-minute drill. I only have one topic for this one.
Yeah, I got none. So yeah, let's go.
Okay. So the latest news is that all signs are pointing towards Mason Rudolph as the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers next year, which absolutely sucks. Especially if you like, I have Deontay Johnson, and
I totally don't even get
one of my dynasty teams. Yeah. I pray that Juju just says, no, I'm not doing that. Yeah. And it really does. I think even though Deontay Johnson is a target hog, I think it absolutely hurts him with Mason Rudolph as a quarterback. I know I said it can't be any worse than Ben Roethlisberger, but it might.
Obviously he is, because or else I think they would have turned it over to him. Like, I know you got to show Ben respect, But man, I don't know. Like to me, that job was up for the taking. Like he was so bad. Like
It's not like Ben was a juggernaut. Like
yeah,
he wasn't very good this year. And
but
Mason Rudolph
yeah.
stinks.
Well, Mason Rudolph did get in there for a small chunk of for a game, wasn't it? And like did not look good at all. Like
No,
I don't know, man.
Yeah, one game I think he got into and he wasn't.
Yeah,
good. He was
like
dreadful.
you said, it's not good for those receivers because he is not good. Like
yeah, and that crazy. So trajectory down Chase Claypool again, trajectory down Deontay Johnson. I guess trajectory up Najee Harris. Like I guess. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe not. So that'll be interesting to see. I still think that Pittsburgh's going to be in the market for a quarterback this offseason. And I do wonder if they maybe trade for, like, I don't know, maybe Minnesota's fed up with Kirk Cousins and Kirk Cousins.
Well, there's a few, right? Like, okay, here's the one I'll bring up. Like Tua, like now that Miami's moved on, like, do they just want to scrap that? Do they go hard after Deshaun Watson? Like, and who gets Deshaun Watson? What's going on there?
I read that they want to build around Tua and that Deshaun Watson is not going to Miami.
Well, that's why he's
definitely done in Houston.
Because that's why they got rid of Flores, right? Like Flores, I don't think was ever on the Tua train. He didn't want it. Like the report.
He wanted Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, that's what they said. They flushed, and even at the draft, there was a story that he didn't want to draft Tua. He wanted Herbert, and that caused a huge rift between them. So between him and management. So
guess what? He was right.
He was right.
And I do.
Whatever team gets Flores, like there might be the guy in Chicago, like. Yeah, crazy.
Well, I also read Flores maybe to the Giants, and then they trade for Deshaun Watson.
Oh well.
Now that would help. That would help those. Now stock up Kenny Golladay, baby.
Yeah,
giddy up.
I don't know. Like a year off football, who knows? We can definitely. Yeah,
he's got to stay out of legal trouble first before he ends up on any other team.
True. That's very.
We don't know about that,
but that's what makes all this stuff so much fun.
And you know what, Jeff? You know what's fun? This podcast today.
It always
as
is.
always. That's going to be it for us. We will get to our top 5 wide receivers and tight ends on the next show. I'm not going to say next.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm not going to say next week because I don't know when we're going to be back. Life happens.
We only got snowed in, so we had time to do this.
Yeah, no kidding. But that's going to do it for us today. Matt Marchese here. Follow me at MattyMar89. Jeff Azaparty over that way at J_party, and follow us on Twitter at front4 fantasy. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to Apple Podcasts, subscribe to Spotify. That's the one. And that's it for us.
Do it.
Bye-bye.